We on? Thinking Out Loud podcast. It's your boy Jay Lip. You know what this is, and you know who I am. And we back with another Talk That Talk Tuesday. Back in the building, we got the Mrs. Lip. Mrs. Lip, the queen. How you feeling tonight? Blessed and
Uh,
highly favored.
of course, you already
Here we
know.
go. As usual. Now, with that being said, we're gonna dive straight into it tonight. You know, we got some bad news this past week. News one: Roland Martin.
Yeah,
It's a wrap. They wrapped your boy
apparently.
up. They said we done with it. TV1 has ended the one broadcast that is for black people and black issues and black news in black America. How do you
Mm.
feel about that?
Well, I mean, we've been on Team Cut Cable for a while, so we can't say that we were one of the people actively supporting it, but we were, of course, doing our research and staying up to date on the topics discussed on the show. So it was a very sad day to hear that our one and only news outlet for people of color, specifically, the one opportunity we had to see a full panel of people who look like us talking about issues that are important to us, for that to go away was just, it's frustrating, it's sad, it's angering. I think it brings up a lot of questions as to why we can't keep the shows that we need on the air.
Now, why do you say that's a show that we need? Because some people would argue and say that, well, you know what? You don't need a black news channel. You have all news channel. All lives matter. All news matters.
Well, I think it's a level of ignorance to assume that everyone is represented by mainstream news media. I think it's important for people of all races to have outlets, specifically media and news outlets, that represent their community and the things that are important to them. And that's one thing that this show did. So the fact that it doesn't exist anymore is a very sad day for African Americans, for people of color in general, I think.
Okay, so what do we do now? We have no more News One. Where do we get our news from as far as what's impacting black culture?
Well, I think there are other like podcasts, YouTubers, radio stations, morning shows that have content that is geared towards people of color. And I
That's
think
true.
we have to take the responsibility to tune in and find what those outlets are. Because even before News One, I mean, we had to find News One if we weren't tuned into what was available on that station.
That's true.
So, I mean, we're always responsible for finding our own media. And if we can't find it, we need to create it.
Okay. All right. With that being said, with News One departing, you mentioned that we have podcasts and we have other media news outlets.
Hmm.
What is the go-to source for you when it comes to black media and black news? Yeah,
Kind of put
yeah,
me on the spot.
yeah, yeah. Uh huh.
Well, I mean, it's I will have to say, and since you put me on the spot, I'll be completely honest. I don't tune into a lot of news media in general, aside from kind of the morning news that I watch as I'm preparing for my day in the morning. I'm not really tuned in. I will say, as things pop up on my social media feeds, that's how I get a lot of my information, or at least I get prompted to find out
You
more.
sound like a millennial right now, though. You're saying that
I am,
you
though. We
sound.
we are
No,
we
we
are
are not.
millennials.
No, we are not.
You can't debate when you were born. Like,
If
this
you're
is the
born in
era
'86,
that
you're not a
we.
millennial.
Yeah, you are. We're old millennials. You'll have to look it up.
Old
We're
millennials. All
considered like
right.
first wave of millennials. Yeah, we are.
No.
So yeah, I sound like one, but that's the way that we're consuming and receiving media. I think even the way that we found out that News One was canceled was through social media. Like, this
Not
this
for
is how.
me.
How'd you find out?
I found out because I follow Roland Martin on YouTube, and so when I listened
Oh.
to the clip that
So
said,
so YouTube is not considered social media?
I would not say so. Not at all. No.
I would say that it is,
YouTube
but
is a
we can
form.
agree to disagree. We can
No,
agree to
there's
disagree. I think that's
no,
fine.
no, no. This is Talk That Talk Tuesday. Ain't no
Okay.
agree to disagree. One of us is
But we
right.
clearly
One of us is
disagree. I do
wrong.
believe that YouTube is a form of social media. The fact that we are communicating with each other through comments and through video, through our voices, sharing our opinions, sharing news, I think that is all a form of social media, and YouTube is not outside the realm of that. So the fact that you were able to receive news through YouTube, I do believe, was you receiving the news through social media. It's not like you got it from some traditional news outlet. It's not even like you heard it word of mouth. You
Okay.
got it from YouTube.
All right.
And I
So,
think that's one way that our generation receives news and media.
so do you think it's any type of irony to the fact that now that Trump is in office, that, and I'm just pulling hairs here, but do you
Go
feel
ahead.
like there's any type of irony in the fact that now that Trump is in office, that News One is canceled?
Um, I think you could definitely speculate, and you probably wouldn't be too far off. I think there's a lot of things that are happening that, if we let ourselves indulge in conspiracy theories, that we could say like it's
Oh,
because
now it's
Trump's
a
here.
conspiracy theory.
Oh,
Okay.
I believe so. I mean, I don't know what happens in those boardrooms and how the decision came down, but if I had to, I wouldn't dispute that Trump being in office makes a atmosphere where something like this could very easily happen.
Okay, so now you've basically said, it's a sad situation and we
Hmm.
have to continue to rely on social media. But if we listen to Trump, he's saying that basically all the news is fake news. So all the media
Well, I
sources
don't
that we
listen to
go to.
him. I don't listen to him though.
But you said you
He can
don't
call.
listen to
He calls
black
it.
news
He calls
either.
it fake. Yeah, I told you I don't tune into much news. Period. White news, black news, fake news, real news. None of it. Not really. I get a lot. I get a lot of
Oh,
my news from social
spit them
media.
bars again.
No, that
Black
was
news,
it. It's
white
one time. It
news,
was a freestyle. I can't do it again. I
black
can't
news,
do it
white
again.
news, fake news, real news, whatever. I don't
None of
tune
it.
into it.
So I mean, but if
Bars,
we want to talk about
bars.
like, well, but if we want to talk about Trump and what he considers fake news, it's only stuff that doesn't benefit him. He's been calling it fake news. So, I think that's just another buzzword of this generation that has been created by this man who doesn't want any media that doesn't support his agenda. I mean, give me a break.
All right, so we have nowhere to go, just the internet, which again
Which is
is
plenty, though. I mean, think about all of the media and content that's being created by people of color on the internet. Like, I don't think it's a bad. I think if the internet didn't exist where we could go somewhere and get our news, like, that would be the ultimate sad day. But since there are forums for us to get what we need from people that look like us. I mean, we just have to find them. It's
okay.
not necessarily on TV anymore, but I don't think that's really a bad thing because
Okay.
we don't consume all of our media through TV anyway.
Okay. So with that being said, if we're going through social media and we're relying on that, and there's no all encompassing news source to
It
kind of
never has been. It never has been.
news one was close.
Said for black people, but that's not
You know
all. I
what?
wouldn't consider that all encompassing. That doesn't represent everyone. It represents us because we're black. But if I was Hispanic, News One would not translate for me.
You know what's funny though to me is my thing is I feel like we've had other channels, specifically a BET, specifically Eccentric. We've
Mm.
had other channels that had the opportunity to create a type of forum for us to have discussion over what I consider to be news one, which are more political topics when it
Mm-hmm.
impacts black people. So if we're watching CNN or we're watching MSNBC or even Fox News, if you're watching any of those news sources, you're getting the perspective skewed to their agenda. Point
Sure.
blank, period. So
Yeah.
I feel like with News One, you had an agenda for black people that wasn't pro this or pro that or anti this or anti that. It was
It
just
was pro black.
pro black. So
Yeah.
without that, I feel like we're going to start to lose ourselves in the conundrum and in the rabbit hole of all these different groupings. And you have to find yourself. You have to find where you best fit in. And that's the thing that worries me the most as a person who receives information, processes it, and then tries to share my opinion with the world through the podcast and through,
Yeah.
ventures like this. I mean, I
Well, I
wish
mean,
that
my
this could be a
my
news
only
source.
my only thing with that would be, even when News One was around in its heyday, whenever that might have been, that wasn't necessarily the only or the best news
Well,
source
to be clear,
for.
they've only been around 4 years. So,
Okay, that's cool. So, even when it was around, that wasn't necessarily the best forum for black people to discuss the issues. It was the one that we had available on television, but just because it goes away doesn't mean that we now have zero access to news and to understand what's happening in the black community. That wasn't the only voice.
true.
It wasn't before. Like it definitely filled a void. I would certainly say that it filled a void for having a panel of educated black people, men and women, on a panel talking about issues where we had no other place on television to talk about them. But now that it's gone, if anything, there's more opportunity for us to fill that void and say, how can we as the consumers of this media start creating some media and passing on what we feel and think, because that's the same thing they were doing. They were sitting on a panel speaking their opinions about the issues, and there's plenty of forums for us to be able to do that ourselves, like right here.
Okay, so if we decide to make Thinking Out Loud a forum for us to share black news, that would be something that you feel would be well received by the masses.
I feel like we're doing that already. I mean, the fact that, Talk Tuesday and just the podcast in general, we're bringing up conversations that we're having in small pockets, but giving people the opportunity to experience that if they don't have a chance to talk about these things with other people. So there's definitely conversations being had about News One not being on television anymore. But if anything, we're saying, what's our opinion on that and how does that impact other parts of our lives? So, we're ourselves filling that void of saying, how is the Black community responding to these issues?
Okay. Well, with that being said, I have to agree to
Yes.
disagree that
Oh my God.
we do need some type of forum on television. Now, my main issue, and I'm gonna leave it at this, with News One. Why the hell would y'all premiere News One every day at 8 o'clock in the morning when most cast is going to work? That's the
Yeah.
main problem I had with News One. Roland Martin has had his judgments against him as far as his, shining and cooning and Uncle Tom, and as far as like teaching Hillary how to do the doo wop or the nay nay or whatever the hell dance it was. Like, Roland Martin was not the most popular black news correspondent. However, he held his own and he did do a
Mhm.
great job when it came to bringing up the issues and having a panel to discuss it. So, with
Yeah.
that being said, Roland Martin, we appreciate you. We know you watching right now, bro. We appreciate you. Now, with that being said, let's transition into something a little bit less less how do you say, more provocative. The more
Oh boy.
provocative topic right now is Roy Wood. Is it Roy Wood or Roy Woods? I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Hold on,
Listen.
let me do my Googles. Let me see. Is it Roy Wood? Oh yeah, it's Roy. No, it's Roy Moore. Ain't even Woods. I don't even know where I got Woods from. It's Roy Moore. What the hell wrong with me? This is Talk That
Oh,
Talk Tuesday. We just off the cuff with it. Just the cuffs
we're doing
off.
our best.
So, Roy Moore
More and more.
in Alabama fighting for that Senate seat. While y'all
Fighting
are watching
hard.
this,
Fighting
he
hard.
fighting hard, just like he was fighting hard for them little girls to get in his car back in the day.
Ugh.
Yes, Roy Moore. How
Yeah.
do we feel about the fact that right now the tensions that are growing from a political atmosphere are just as dangerous as they are from a racial tension atmosphere? I feel
I
like, go ahead.
I just I wish I could say I was more surprised by this, but we also have to consider
One
who
second.
we elected as president.
1 second. I just want to, one second. For the people who don't know, hi, my name is Jay Lip. I want to give you some background information. Roy Moore just happens to be a person who is fighting today, tonight, for a Senate seat representing Alabama. And in that, he has also had allegations against him from numerous women for sexual misconduct, for pedophilia, for statutory rape, and other just nasty, nasty things. And
Ungodly. Mm.
besides that, he also is a person who had a quote most recently when asked about when was America great to you. And in his quote, and I'm going to give you the short version, he said, when slavery was around, you know, when them niggas was picking cotton, that was a sad part of the reality, but the white families were good. The
Yeah.
family unit was tight. We loved each other, we embraced each other, and we had a great trajectory as a country to go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, slavery. I was a little
Yeah.
stain on it, but if we would have had that still, we'd be great again.
Mm.
To Roy Moore, fuck you! Alright, now, I got that off my chest, got that off my thinking out loud
So let
chest.
me throw this out there really quick. When I first heard that quote about how he felt like America was at its greatest back in slavery, I think even more than these allegations from these women, even if you just take that that soundbite, which was recent, he can't even say that that's something he said a long time ago.
Not at all.
So if you take that soundbite, he's basically saying here and now in 2017 that his America, the great America
Hmm.
that he experiences, is white. If the white family is good, America is good. So I
Amen.
mean, even outside of what he says he did or didn't do 20, 30, 40 years ago, this man is clearly racist. And that is like
Absolutely.
hands down, you cannot dispute that. He's saying if the white family is good, America, the country, is good. He
Absolutely.
gives two shits about anybody else.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
So, with that being said, why do we see ourselves in a situation where this man is so close to winning the same Senate seat? Because he's a Republican? Because a Republican who is an alleged pedophile, an alleged statutory rapist, and an alleged bigot, an alleged racist, an alleged Satan. Satan!
Satan.
Alleged Satan! A
uh,
man who's an alleged Satan, he still is better than the most God fearing and humble and kind hearted and loving Democrat to
yeah.
enter that same seat. You know why? Because that Democrat is not going to go and toe the party line for Trump, and
Right.
therefore he can't be allowed in there. So, to me, the question really for you is, Mrs. Lip, where do we draw the line as far as how we vote and how we expect our representatives to represent us? Is it strictly political, or do you have a moral compass? God damn, explain that for me, babe.
It's just it's so sad to know that we live in a country that is allowing these kinds of things to happen. Like we're actually electing people who are making terrible decisions on behalf of this country. Now, he might think, or maybe parts of his constituency think that he is the best choice. And I don't know what the breakdown looks like in Alabama, but apparently he thinks that regardless of what he says, there are still people who are standing behind him, and obviously they
Oh
are.
yeah,
Our
they
own
are.
president came behind and endorsed this man. So, and the fact that other individuals within our political system are coming out on Twitter and saying like, take the politics out of it. This guy's completely awful, and they're getting completely bashed constantly. I mean, it just goes to show that I feel like our country, when it comes to politics, is completely brainwashed. When you have a two-party system, it's either one side or the other, and if you sit in the middle, people think you're an idiot because your vote will never count. So if you're on one side, you have to go along with all the bullshit. If you're on the other side, you go along with all of that bullshit. Democrats are not innocent when it comes to making mistakes and doing stupid things in this country. But I think ultimately we don't look at these politicians as people. We look at them as issues, and we look at what they can do to benefit our constituency or our communities, perhaps.
I feel like the
Um,
one thing that you said though that I disagree with is the fact that we have not seen yet a situation where a Democrat with such an egregious past has been supported by the Democratic Party despite their history because they're a Democrat. We have not seen that yet at
Well,
all.
I think I will say that when it comes to Democrats, I think we have a much lower tolerance for people who do not uphold the social expectations of our party. So things like, pedophilia and touching little girls, like we don't stand for that. And I think, I mean, it's a platform of the party that those social issues matter when it comes to how we treat each other and what we're doing outside of the spotlight. Like once that stuff comes to light, we crack down on it, and we say, I'm speaking for myself as a Democrat, not as
Oh
all
yeah,
like
talk
black
that
people, black
talk. Talk
females, none
that
of that.
talk.
I'm talking about myself. I do identify as a Democrat because I feel like historically the the fundamentals of the Democratic Party most align with what I try to aspire to in my life. So when it comes to these issues that we've had with our politicians and just nasty things they've done in their private lives, I feel like we gloss over it because we're like, ultimately we have a Republican president. We're looking for a completely Republican Congress, and whatever we have to do to make it happen. And unfortunately, that's at the detriment of our entire country, I feel, because we've got young men and young women who are actually paying attention to politics and saying, okay, so this is cool then.
But you know why though? The reason why is because you know that when you put a Republican in that seat, that's a vote for whatever you want to have
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
because these are
it's
not
all about
people.
least
Like I said,
resistance.
these people who are running are not people. They are issues. So when you're backed by our president, even though these kinds of things have come up about things that have happened in your past, he doesn't care about this guy as a person. He cares about this guy as a vote for
Okay.
what he wants to happen in this country.
Okay. All right. So I'm with you on that. So to play, and I'm gonna have a special sound effect for this next week. Devil's advocate. If I was to come to you and tell you right now that even though this man is not of a moral standard that you would support as a human, he will in fact support the upper echelon, which is the president that you voted for.
I ain't vote for
That's
him.
well, I'm
I ain't
asking
vote
you.
for that
I'm
man.
asking you as devil's advocate. If you voted for person A, and
Well,
now
you
you
can't
have,
ask me. You can't ask me because I didn't vote for that man. And I'm sure that there are
here we
people
go.
in Alabama, and I'll say this much: I'm sure there are people in Alabama who do not love the idea that he allegedly touched young girls
Oh no, I'm
20,
sure they
30,
hate
40
it.
years ago. I'm sure that.
But their hatred grows deeper for a person who would not allow Trump to pass what he wants to have passed.
Well, I mean, I think we have to take we can possibly take it back to even when Trump was being elected president, when he was running for the presidency. There were groups out there who were saying, well, I don't like what he did, but he's also like anti-abortion, and that's important to me, and they
Right,
voted for him anyway.
right.
So it's not about him as a person. I feel like the people who end up voting for these kinds of
Hmm.
politicians, these people who do disgusting dirt, they don't see them as people. They're like, I care about, gun laws. I want to keep my guns. I don't want abortions. I want to be able to buy a house at a reasonable rate, and you can help me do those things. So I'm going to vote for you
So
because
you're
you
voting
said
for
you were
self
sorry
interest
or you said you
versus your
didn't.
morality and your ethical
Absolutely.
basis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we agree on
Because I
that.
mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, with these kinds of elections, you only have two choices. So if your personal needs can be met by someone who maybe did this terrible thing, but they tick all the rest of your boxes, and the person on the other side of the aisle doesn't meet any of the requirements for you as a strong political leader, you're gonna vote for the guy that maybe has a stain in his past.
All right. Well, I agree with you on the fact that there are some sacrifices being made as far as people making the decision and the choice to vote for their own party alignment versus their own morality or ethical bearings. But what that does to me is demean or really devalue individuals' moral and ethical merit. At the
Yeah,
end of the
it
day,
does.
if you say I'd rather have a person who will allow the voting to go through to ban X, Y, and Z and to approve A, B, and C, then you're putting that over the fact that they did LMNOP that
So
is
many letters.
just terrible shit that they did in their life that you would
Mm-hmm.
not want to be a part of by any means, but because one, you can't prove it, two, you can easily defute it, and three, you just stay in a state of denial. There's no way to prosecute this man. So, with that being said, it's all hearsay. And we've talked
Yeah.
about this numerous times. We ain't gonna rehash it. All I'm gonna say is this: Roy Moore, I'm putting my money on him if I had to bet because he, you know what? We'll see tonight. That's
And
what
if
I'll leave it
anything,
at.
honestly, he's the one who we've been talking about the most. And when it comes down to it, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So
Exactly.
I'm 99% sure that he is going to win this election.
I just wish he would choke on that grease. Just slide down the
Choke on it.
choke, slide down the stairs on that grease. Just slide, motherfucker, slide.
All
Anyway,
right.
all right. Bringing it back in. Last topic, and usually I do a curveball, but we're gonna do a last topic and a special announcement for Talk That Talk. Okay, hold on. Last topic we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go in on bullying. Now there was a video that came up this weekend on social media about a little boy who was getting bullied at school. Now I'm gonna tell y'all the truth, cause I'm your boy, Jay Lip. I ain't watched the video, and I'm gonna tell you why. because my wife told me she cried when she saw the video.
I cried.
My
I
friends told me they cried when they saw the video. My coworkers told me they cried when they saw the video. And the news media all started crying when they started playing the video. And I was like, I don't need that. I don't need to cry. I got enough shit to worry about that I could cry over. But this video apparently is making waves over social media about a young man. Mrs. Lip, explain the video for the people who haven't seen it.
pause. I want to
Pause.
find out what his name is. Hold
No,
on.
ain't no pause on no video, babe.
You said you're gonna have to edit this one. I'm
I can't
sorry.
edit this. This is live, babe. We can't do that.
It's not live.
Babe, we can't do that. If you need to know the name, just say person X. Person, you know, I'm going to say boy who got bullied. I searched it right now. Let's keep it going. What were your thoughts? His name is Keaton Jones. Or
All
in
right.
support of
He
bullied boy Keaton Jones. There you go. Got you.
so this morning, like I mentioned before, I watch a little
Talking
bit
about
of
some
news first
damn
thing in the
edit
morning
this
when I'm.
out. You know how we do.
All right. So
Uh
this morning I was watching Good Morning America, which I watch as I'm preparing for the day, and TJ, who is a correspondent who doesn't come on very often, like I look out for TJ because he's one of the few people
my
on the
dog.
show that look like me,
My
and I feel
dog.
like when he comes on, the stuff that he says is important. I feel like he gets really important stories, typically like social stories or sports or whatever.
Absolutely.
So TJ prefaced his segment by saying, which I've never heard said on Good Morning America before. He prefaced it by saying, "If you're not watching right now, give me the next 90 seconds of your time." And I was like, okay, whatever it
Damn.
is, this is important. I need to be
Damn.
watching this. I've never
Okay.
heard that said on Good Morning
So
America.
when that happened, I must
So
have been driving to work because I ain't see
yeah,
that.
you were already gone for the day. So TJ basically said there's this video of this young man who had been bullied. It's making the rounds on social media. Like celebrities are just everybody's tuned into this young man. So they played different clips of the video. I haven't seen the full video, just what I saw on Good Morning America. But basically, what it comes down to is this young man contacted his mother before lunch to come pick him up because he had been bullied and he was too scared to stay at his school for lunch because apparently something broke the camel's back today.
Damn.
So throughout the video, he's explaining to his mother and kind of answering her questions as far as what happened to him today and kind of what the situation has been. So this young man apparently is being bullied by either one boy, a series of people. I'm not completely sure. And he talks about how they poured milk on him, they put ham down his clothes, and just all these awful things. But ultimately, what touched me and what really brought me to tears was this young boy who's gone through this horrific series of events. Ultimately, his question was like, why? Like, what satisfaction do you get out of bullying? Why do you feel like you need to do this to me or to anybody else? Like, why does this make you feel good? And I think just that perspective on bullying for him to be able to say, like, yes, this happened to me, but my question isn't just like, how do I get out of the school or how do I get back at them? My question is, why are you doing this? Like, help me understand why you as a person feel the need to do this to another person. And I think that's what really hit home for most of the people watching the video. Now, ultimately, of course, they talked about how, different celebrities were inviting him to UFC fights and movie openings. The whole UFC fight invitation, I was like, this boy's a victim of bullying. Maybe that's not appropriate, but whatever. But ultimately, these different celebrities were kind of shouting him out, saying they're in his corner, talking. It just brings up, of course, the conversation about bullying that's been so prevalent for the last couple of years. But yeah, it was very emotional. If you haven't watched it, I think it's important to watch it. You might shed a tear or 20, but if anything, it just brings back to the forefront of your mind that, just bullying's not cool and there's no point to it. Like even the people being bullied are like, what the hell? Just leave me alone. Let me be a kid.
Okay.
It was,
My
yeah.
response to that is basically everything you described is the reason why I didn't watch the video because
That's no excuse.
it's
That
not.
is no
I'm not
excuse.
trying to cop out. I'm just saying like, and I hate to be insensitive, but cats get bullied every day, b. Bulled. Cats get bullied every day, b. But the thing is, when I see a video described the way that you did, where it's not just about a young kid crying, oh, somebody called me fat or somebody called me short or whatever the case, It sounded like this was a real cry for help. Like this young man is trying to understand, like, literally, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Why? And I think that is what touches so many hearts. And Thinking Out Loud podcast traditionally has been a hub for conversations and forums, the barbershop, the basement, the card party, as far as black people are concerned, and really to give people of non-color a perspective into our lifestyle and things that matter to us. But when it comes to this, I don't care if you blue, purple, or green. If you're a child and the way that you
Mhm.
describe this video being verbally and emotionally abused by your peers, that's some fuck shit, and it's
Yeah.
not acceptable. At the end of the day, I completely agree with the sentiment that a bully is a coward. A bully is a coward who has size or who has some type of stamina or some type of encouragement or shield to allow them to basically project their own insecurities on another person,
Mhm.
especially when it's a child.
Yeah.
So, for the cowards who are bullying young people, especially this young man right now, it's fuck you
Mhm.
forever. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, kids go through enough trying to adjust and trying to learn how to grow in this world that's forever changing every
Mhm.
second, every moment. So I'm looking dead ass at anybody who's watching this right now. Bullying is a cowardice act, and it hurts my heart to even hear about the video. I'm gonna check it out, but I knew that before I came on this podcast, I didn't need to see it, or this episode of Talk That Talk Tuesday. I didn't need to see it because I've heard this tale time and time again. The only difference is now we have social media and the internet to share the story. And what I appreciate about the bravery and the courage of the family of this young man is to put it out there and ask the question. And from what I've heard from all of the different accounts is his main question is why?
Right.
Why?
And I think another thing that really stood out to me is, I give a lot of respect to his mother, because I mean, I think even back to my own experience, and it's no disrespect to my mom, but if I called my mom at lunchtime and told my mom that I was being bullied when I was in like middle school or elementary school or something, I'm not 100% sure she would have came and picked me up,
I'm not 100% sure she
Um,
wouldn't. I'm
yeah, I'm
100%
pretty
sure
sure
she
she wouldn't
wouldn't.
have.
Nah.
She would have probably told me to fight back. She would have told me
Or
to
she
tell a
would have sent your
teacher. She
brothers
would have
on
told
them.
me to, yeah, or she would have told me to like go eat lunch somewhere else or whatever, and we'll talk about it when you get home. So I definitely give a lot of respect to that mom. I don't think in some of the comments on like Facebook videos I've seen where like this mom is babying him and why is she putting all their business out there? And
They're
I
the
think those
problem.
are,
They're the
yeah,
problem.
yeah, and I think that's how we kind of tie it back to our community because those are conversations that are some of the first things that come to mind. I think for some black families is maybe
Suck it
going
up.
through bullying
Suck it
is what
up.
makes you stronger.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
suck it up
what
or fight
doesn't kill
back
you
or
makes you
do what you got to
stronger.
do.
All that bullshit
Exactly.
that we're taught. The pain,
So
pain is weakness leaving the body.
yeah,
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. No, what doesn't kill you can still harm you. And the
very
thing is,
much
we need to
for the long
understand,
term.
and we've talked about it from a mental health perspective. We've talked about the emotional aspect. But what I want everyone to know is that we're on one accord when it comes to this. Both me and my wife, point blank, period. Prayers up for that family because right
Hmm.
now he's one of many. And if you're
Oh
out there
yeah.
bullying, and if you're out there teaching your kids that this is just the life, this is just how it is growing up. It's 2017, my guy. Like, go to school, do your homework, make friends, and go to hell home. You don't have
Hmm.
no reason to be pouring milk and ham down somebody's shirt. All this silly shit. I heard that shit. I was like, pouring milk on somebody. Oh, we about to shoot the five, man. We gotta. I need 5 minutes. Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine, but that's my personality as a 31-year-old male, or my wife is a 31-year-old woman. However, as a child, I can't say that I have that courage. And so, to that
Yeah.
young man, I appreciate him and his mother for sharing their story. And I want to let again everyone know that we're on one accord with this one, baby. Thinking out loud, the whole family, we don't fuck with that. You don't
Mm-mm.
bully, you don't harass, you don't intimidate. Stop being a coward. Find joy and success in yourself, and if you don't have that, continue your search until you do. But don't try to harm someone else or bring someone else down or project your misery on someone because you're not where you're supposed to be or you don't have the happiness that you have. And if you have a home situation, if you're that one kid who grew up in the projects and you so upset at the world that you go to school and you find the weakest link and you just kick them down, you going to get kicked even harder. At the end of the day, karma is not something that is specific to this world, but it is something that I believe coincides with spirituality. And
Hmm.
God has
I
a
mean, you
plan.
ultimately you get what you give.
And God has a
There's no
plan.
benefit to being a bully
And
ever.
that's what I'm saying. God has a plan. To that young man, and again, I'm gonna see the video, but from what I heard,
Watch the video.
I'm gonna watch the video.
Yeah,
In the meantime, I I appreciate we can end it on one accord like this, babe. I love you.
love you too.
It's amazing that we can go through life and have such a retrospective opinion on some of the things that we went through as kids, but we know culturally too many people say this is just what it is. This is called school. This is just bullying is a part of growing up and being strong. Not
Mm,
everybody's built the same.
you're not.
So
You're not.
be cognizant of that. Be empathetic. Don't be sympathetic. Don't have sympathy, but be empathetic and put yourself in their shoes for a minute and realize if this was me, would I want this happening to me? And I bet you, and I pray to you, I promise you, you will behave and you will act differently. Put yourself in the shoes of everyone you encounter today, tomorrow, and the next day, and you will behave and you will act differently because we all just want to be happy in this world. We want to
Hmm.
have joy and we want to be blessed. That's it. With that being said, I appreciate my love. This was a good one. Clap it up for your girl. Special announcement before we go. I usually do a curveball right now, but next week we live. Tell them, babe. Say we live.
We're gonna be live next week. Ugh.
Me, me and you. We
Yeah, I
we gonna be
know.
live.
That's crazy.
So we're gonna be live on Facebook live. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be me, and then it's gonna be her, and I'm pointing to
Yeah.
you right now. So
And me? Okay.
look to your right.
This way?
Yep, yep. There you go. Like look at now. Point. Now we're gonna do this. Point.
Okay.
Now raise your hand up to your chin, and point your finger
Okay.
at me. Point a finger like babe. Like put your finger like you brushing your teeth like this. Point like this. Yes, yes. We gonna be live next Tuesday at what 6? Does that sound
Sure.
good?
That sounds
Six
good.
p.m. next Tuesday, December. The next Tuesday, we gonna be live. And we doing it all on Facebook, baby. So send them comments and shares and likes and all that subscription shit. Think It Out Loud podcast. It's your boy J Lip. It's Mrs. Lip. Appreciate you.
Love ya.
Hey. And
We out.
we out.